The way that we create for loops in MATLAB is we use the for keyword. So I'm going to create a new script and then demonstrate how to create a for loop by creating a for loop. So let me make a new script. So the first thing I want to do is maybe just clear everything so that I start fresh. And now I'm going to type out my for loop. So the for loop starts with the for keyword. FOR is a reserved keyword in MATLAB that designates to MATLAB that I want to create a for loop. The next thing I do is I must create a variable called the looping variable, or a looping index, that will describe how many, the value of the loop, and also how many iterations of this loop I want to do. So what I mean by that is, we often create loops with the variable I. We put the equal sign, and then we give the for loop a range to loop from. So a for loop is a deterministic loop. It runs for a certain amount of time, and I can create a for loop running from, say, the value of 1 to the value of 100 by creating a vector containing elements numbered 1 to 100. So this statement, the highlighted statement, is a MATLAB instruction to create a vector starting at 1 and running all the way to 100. The next thing I do is I type my code. So for now I'm just going to, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to print the value of I. So let me write disp I, and that's the only piece of code that I'm going to put in my for loop at the moment. And then on the next line I must always end my for loop with a matching end keyword. So the for keyword is used to start the loop, or to designate where the start of the for loop will begin, and then the end keyword is used to designate to MATLAB where the for loop ends. So everything between lines 4 to 6 is considered the for loop. And what I've done here is I've created a for loop that will run from the value of 1 to 100, and that value will be assigned to a variable called I, and then it will display within the loop, it will display the value of I for each iteration. So now if I run this, let me just save it quickly, demo 1. If I run it, then when I look in my command window, I have generated all numbers between 1 and 100. And those numbers 1 to 100 are the values of I that I've inserted into this variable I, my looping index, my looping variable, because I've created a for loop that runs from 1 to 100. So if I wanted to run something from 1 to 5, just 5 numbers, then again I could just change this number to 5. This will create a vector running from create a vector with elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the for loop will go and insert each number one by one through each iteration into the value of I and display. So when I run this now, I just get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. MATLAB, so the way that this for loop works is that I've told the for loop to iterate 5 times, and for each time I've displayed the value of I. So that's it really for loops. The more instructions I put in here, I'm just putting in garbage now, but I could make many MATLAB instructions within my for loop, and all of the code within this block will be iterated over, and in this case it will run 5 times over. So in the next few videos I'll edit this for loop for us to do actual meaningful work, and then we'll be able to see how for loops can be used to achieve a lot of repetitive work easily.